Good morning and welcome to Ascending Tepeyac. We're here in the Diocese of El Paso at the Tepeyac Institute offices. And here we're going to be talking about the gospel from last Sunday, where Jesus was telling us about the buried treasure, the pearl of great value, and also the net. These are very important messages that he's given us, but they are all different. Although they sound similar, they are not. So we're going to get into those parables and we'll get as much as we can from it because you are of great value. Let us begin our program. Well, my brothers and sisters, we are here again on this podcast. It's been already over 6 months that we started this podcast, so probably today is our sixth month celebration, and we are excited. We're seeing some up and downs, but seems like to be stabilizing. So we are going to continue with this journey until you tell us stop. Once you tell us stop, we will stop. But the Spanish version of this program has been going since the time of the bridge, which was the Catholic radio station. So it's been here for a while, and it also has ups and downs. But we'll continue on this journey, and we're going to be talking about the gospel from last Sunday, where Jesus, after talking to the people who are living in these fisher towns, he starts talking about a man who found a buried treasure. This message is so important because this man was not looking for it. This is something to consider, first of all. He wasn't looking for it, but he tripped with that. He suddenly found something. He said, "What is this?" And he started digging and found the treasure. Can you imagine when you are looking for something you are searching about, but when you are not, you seem to accidentally find something. And he found something of such an important value. When he discovered it, he said, "Oh my God, this is valuable." And he wanted to be his own possession. Unfortunately, he was buried in a land that belonged to another person. So he went and he sold everything he had to buy that land. And once he bought it, he got out the treasure. Now, can you imagine the person who sold the land when he found out that there was a treasure there? Oh my God, he should have said, "Wow, I cannot believe that I did not pay attention, that I did not realize that that treasure was there on my property, that it was mine to have, but I didn't search for it." So is our spiritual life. Sometimes we just take for granted so many things and we just kick things away from us. We reject opportunities of loving our brothers and sisters. We kicked out opportunities to grow ourselves, to find that treasure. And that treasure is there for us to have. It's there, belongs to you. But sometimes we don't want it. And we probably just like that man say, "Oh, that land is worth not much. He's giving me more than I expected." And then I sold it. But he never realized that there was a treasure there. In our lives, my brothers and sisters, we have a treasure that is buried. And sometimes we cannot find it because we are not looking for it. We are like St. Augustine used to say, we are looking for God all around and we cannot find it. But He's inside of us. He's been inside of us and we didn't realize. So we are that land. We are the owners of that land. And it is so important that we discover that treasure because it is there for us. It's there for us just to grab it. And then our life will make sense. How many people nowadays are investing all they have on things that sooner or later will be gone, on things that will not give him true joy. When we have the opportunity of eternal life, of true joy, but we just need to go and search for it. And the world is going to offer us a lot of stuff to distract us from going for that treasure. But it is important that we realize what is truly important in our lives. That man, he found the treasure and he could have stolen it, but he said, no, it belongs to the owner. So he bought the whole land. He bought it, it was his to have. Makes sense? Maybe not, because you say if he was digging in a land that didn't belong to him, what was he doing? Well, I don't know. He was working or he was doing something. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it. But he was not searching for it. He found it. Probably he was trying to dig for a well, or he was an employee, or he was doing something, but he found it. Sometimes we have that encounter with Jesus when we don't expect. I remember having a baptism, and a man came to me after the baptism, and he told me, you know, today God talked to me. I don't know when, I don't know what, I don't know what were his issues or whatever he was going through, but he heard God talking to him in a baptism. How many people go to baptisms? And they go, and some of them are not even Catholic. They just go because they are family, because they are supportive, and they are friends of the family, and they go there, and they don't expect to have an encounter with Jesus, but he is there. And suddenly they just have that encounter face to face with him. And when they have the encounter, they're willing to change their whole life. Their whole life. They put aside and they change their priorities because we know, we don't know, we don't need that much. I always remember the words of St. Francis of Assisi, who said, I need a little, and the little that I need it a little. Sometimes my wife goes on a journey, and I go to the supermarket for shopping. And when I get to the supermarket, I just realize that I buy a lot of snacks because I don't need that much. I don't need it, definitely. And when she goes to the market, she takes care of everything that I might need. But when I go, I just go to buy things to snack on in the evening or in the afternoon or throughout the day because I don't need much. My life is not that complicated. I remember in the past when I was a student and I was going to the supermarket to buy groceries for the house, for the department. And oh my God, we came back with bags and bags and bags of food. And we didn't even cook. But we bought all that because we said we are going to cook it, we are going to have it there, we are going to use it. I remember so much a friend of mine, he didn't know how to cook a thing. So I told him, well, let's prepare something. He said, what are you going to do? I said, let's have a tuna salad. And he looked at me, tuna salad? Yes. So I opened the can of tuna. I put the vegetables, I put mayo, and I just mix it and said, that's it, ready. He looked at me and said, wow, that was easy. I know, that's why we bought so many cans of tuna, because that's the easy student food. The next day, when I came back from school, he told me, Jesus, don't worry about food. I, I prepare lunch. Yeah, so I went to the freezer. When I opened it, there it was, tuna salad. I was excited. I didn't have to prepare anything, so I had my tuna salad. The next day, there was a bag on a table, the paper on refrigerator. Lunch is here. And I open it. Tuna salad again. The next day I came home and he was there and he was just singing and he was saying, Shunta tunta tung, we are gonna eat tuna. Because he was preparing tuna every single day because that's the only thing he knew how to prepare. I realized that I said, well, we need to teach this guy to do something different because otherwise we're going to be eating tuna for the rest of our lives. Now, I realized that I don't need that much. I don't eat like I used to. Probably I was the terror of the buffet bars. But now I am not. I'm just eating basic that I need, and that's it. People look at me and say, are you sick because you're losing weight? And I say, well, because I'm not eating that much as I used to. I used to eat a lot much more than that. But what happened in your life is suddenly you realize what it is important. Inside of you, you have God. And you're looking for something and you try to find it through pleasures of the flesh, through food, drinks, drugs, sex, so many things. But you cannot find true joy until you go and you find that buried treasure. So, when you find that treasure, everything is less important. Everything. Because what is truly important is that treasure, because it's a treasure for eternal life. And now the second parable, it's about the pearl of great value. I was shocked when I was reading about pearls because we are finding that the people Jesus was talking to, they have not much experience about pearls. They knew, because they were fishermen, they knew about the existence of pearls, and they knew that the pearls are different. And why? Because let's just imagine what happened. A little piece of an invasive particle, can be even dirt or something like that, goes inside. And what happened, the oyster feels attacked and feels the presence of something that is foreign. What it does, start putting layers over it. And it's layering and layering and layering until it makes the pearl. The pearls, my brothers and sisters, are of great value, but actually they are not like something that is very strong, very hard, very impossible to break. I was reading that Cleopatra, in her times, she was asking them to bring pearls. They will put them in water and they will dissolve the pearls in water and she will drink. What she like to do, drink them. So the pearl begins with something that is bad, something that is not good, but it is being layered and layered with this form, with this cover, with this material until you have a pearl. We as humanity, we started with an original sin, but we were not rejected for original sin. But Jesus, he gave his life for us. He came and he lay on that cross to save us because he didn't reject us because of the sin. He put a layer over layer over layer over layer, and suddenly we are a beautiful pearl. Instead of being a foreign particle, instead of being a sin, because we all have that sin, we are now surrounded by grace. Surrounded by grace, layer by layer of grace. And we are so valuable, we are so important that we are worth much. Some people don't understand it and they feel unworthy. They feel that their life is complicated, that life is not good with them, that they're struggling with problems, with relationships, with jobs, with so many things. And they feel that they are abandoned by God. I have heard this many times. People that go to me and say, I know what I have done is terrible and God has abandoned me. No, God never abandons us. Never. We are the ones walking away from Him. But even though we walk away from Him, He's everywhere. And He's expecting us to come back to Him. The pearl of great value, my dear brothers and sisters, it is you, it is me, and the merchant who saw that pearl, Jesus. And He sold everything He had. He gave everything He had. He gave even His life for us. We are that pearl of great value. We are worth a lot. There was a priest who was walking around and preparing for his homily. It was a Saturday in the afternoon, and he did not have a good idea about his homily. So he was walking around and he saw some kids playing with a bird. As he approached them, they were screaming and yelling and throwing rocks to the bird. The bird was inside a cage, so the rocks will not hit the bird. But he was really scaring the bird because the bird was seeing the stones coming his direction, but they were stopped by the cage. The bird was truly, truly scared. When he saw what they were doing, he asked him, "What are you doing?" And they look at the priest and they say, "Well, we're having fun with this ugly bird. This ugly bird is worth nothing, so we're having fun with it." He's saying, "What are you going to do?" "Well, we're going to play with it for a while, and once that we get tired, we can clip the wings of the bird so it cannot escape. And then, well, once that bird cannot fly, maybe we are going to stun it to death." The priest was shocked to hear this from the kids. And he said, "I want to buy it from you." They looked at him and said, "Father, this is an ugly bird. It's worth nothing." And he said, "Yeah, I hear you, but I want to buy it from you. How much do you want for it?" They couldn't agree about a price because for them it was worth nothing. But then the priest told them, "Okay, I'll give you $30 for the bird." When they heard $30, they were so excited because it was much more they expected from it. So they say, "Okay, it's a deal." And they give the priest the cage with the ugly bird, and they run to spend the money. The priest is walking back to the church and he hears the bells ringing in the church and say, "Oh my God." And he still did not have a homily. And it was about time to prepare for the Mass. So he goes to Mass and he begins explaining the story, what happened to him. And then he said, "This story reminds me one day when Jesus came to earth. And as he was walking, he was seeing fathers abandoning children, mothers leaving their homes and leaving the children alone, couples being unfaithful to each other, parents hurting their kids, kids getting into drugs, into prostitution." And he was seeing all this going in the world. And he noticed that the evil one was there, pushing convincing people, inviting them to do things. When he saw that, he asked the devil, "What are you doing?" And he looked at Jesus and said, "Well, I'm having fun with these people. They love to be evil. So I'm just pushing them a little so they can be evil." And Jesus said, "What are you going to go do with them afterwards?" And he said, "Well, once I get tired, I'm going to kill them." And Jesus said, "I want to buy them." And the evil one said, "But they're worth nothing. Look at them. They enjoy doing evil." And Jesus said, "I see that, but I want to buy them. What do you want for them?" And the evil one saw the opportunity. And he seized the opportunity and he said, "I want to the last drop of your blood." And Jesus said, "You got a deal." And then the priest got the cage where the bird was and he put it on the altar. Everybody could see that cage with the open door, but the bird was not there. What was the cost of our freedom? Because we are not in a cage. We're not trapped, even though we feel that way. Even though we feel that the world is encapsulating us into evil, that we are trapped, that we cannot walk away. Sometimes we are in a toxic relationship and we don't want to walk from it because we say, "No, I cannot do it." And sometimes we are doing a job that is corroding us and we don't want to walk away from it. And we say, "Because I cannot do it. I don't have the strength. I don't have." Yes, you are free because your freedom was purchased with the last drop of Jesus' blood. He died so that you can be saved. You are a pearl of great value. You are. He died for you, for me, for all of us. And that cage where the bird used to be, it's open. It's open because we are free. Some people come to talk to me and they said, "Well, I'm in a very bad relationship, very bad, but I need to leave." Well, your choice. We have been set free. And sometimes they say, "Well, I'm going to be happy when my couple changes." You know what? You're not going to ever be free. Never. Why? Because your joy, your happiness depends on another person making a decision of their lives. It doesn't depend on you. It depends on another person. What that means? That now that person has the key to that cage. And you have walked yourself into the cage and you give them the key. And they have the key. They're going to make the decision of when you are going to be free. We put ourselves chains and locks, and we don't realize that Jesus already did it for us. We are a pearl of great value. Yes, you are important. I am important. Everybody is. But we need to realize that Jesus, he gave everything he had for us. You and for me, for all of us. And then the last part, he was talking about the net. The fishermen, they throw the net. And what happened? They're going to bring a lot of stuff. In those times, Jesus is only talking about fish. Nowadays, you can see the nets of the boats full of garbage because there's a lot of garbage in the sea. But also, there are some little fish that are not to be sold in the market, so they throw them back. There are some crabs, maybe some other uh, animal, and they may just not sell them, they throw them back. So, what happened with the net? It's going to bring a lot of different species, different, but the separation is going to be done because the ones that are doing evil are going to be rejected. The ones that are doing good are going to be accepted. So in that net, we are going to be there. But it is not for us if we are going to go to one side or to the other. We are going to be separated by our works, by our actions, by our love. That's simple. Do you know what is going to be the final test? Jesus tells us in Matthew 25, when I was hungry, you gave me food. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink. When I was a migrant, you received me. That is the final test, my brothers and sisters. We know the questions of the final test. And what are we doing about it? Are we helping the ones in need? And we can say, well, I don't know if people are thirsty. They have to come and tell me they're thirsty. Okay. But what about people who are hungry? You don't need to hear they're hungry. You can see it. There are some places where you can discover people struggling. And what are we doing about it? It is important that we discover that our actions are going to be making us grow to be separated and be placed in a container for the acceptable. Or we can just shrink. We will be ejected from the net. So, where do you want to be? A lady, she was one day cooking and she was thinking about a topic that she was going to address in a retreat. And she was just thinking about what am I going to say, how am I going to approach it, and she was looking at a can of peas, and there was a very very small pea, larger ones together. So and said, I don't want to be like this. I want to be. What do I need? Doesn't depend on us eating, but it depends on nourishing ourselves spiritually, nourishing ourselves with what is worth. That's why Jesus left the Eucharist, so we can be nourished every week, receiving the body and the blood of Christ. And in time, I should look a little bit more like Him. I will not be identical to Him because that's very hard to achieve, but I can look a little bit more like Him. When we're going on a journey and the road it's 540 miles from here to San Antonio, and when you are driving, you say, "Oh my God, it's so far away." But as you are going on this journey, suddenly you realize that you are half the way. Suddenly you realize that you're only 200 miles from there. Suddenly you are 50 miles from there. So in life, that's how we go. But if I'm just whining and complaining from the time we depart until the time we arrive, and I don't see my progress, I want to be just whining and complaining and angry. And when I get there, it's not even be a happy moment because all this stubbornness, all this anger, all this uh, remorse and things that are happening in my life as I'm going there are going to ruin my day. Sometimes we drive to see our grandkids. They are in San Antonio. And when we go there, it's a long journey. But once we get there and we hear those little voices, we realize what truly joy is. Well, we ran out of time, my brothers and sisters. So remember, we are going to start our classes very soon in the Tepeyac Institute. Visit us in www.tepeyacinstitute.com. You can find there about the many offerings that we have. We are offering Bible classes, and those classes are not to be reading the Bible only. No, those classes are to see the theological significance of the book. So it is a very interesting class. We are going to have prophets and wisdom this semester. Hopefully you can join us. The Lord be with you. May the blessing of God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit descend upon you and remain with you forever. Amen. Have a great week. God bless you.